Wall-to-wall country, Walls 102. It's Dani and Caryn with the Morning Jolt, and it is time for our community coffee convo, where we talk about and highlight amazing people in our community, which is all brought to you by the law offices of Peter F. Ferracuti. At the law offices of Peter F. Ferracuti, you're more than just a client. Call Alexis and her experienced team at 888-488-4LAW and take action now. And we are highlighting Miss Alexis Ferracuti for this community coffee convo. Find out how she came to the area, her credentials, and so much more of how she helps out the community. What's your story?
I was born and raised in Ottawa. My dad was a first-generation American.
Okay. From where?
From my grandparents were from Italy.
Okay.
Both of them. One from Ferentino, the other one from a little bit more northern than that. Ferentino is about 20 minutes north of Rome, so pretty close. So they immigrated here with their families when they were, my grandpa was 18 when he came over. My grandma was very young, I think she was 3.
Oh, wow.
And so they moved here, started a life, met each other. My grandma and grandpa had several businesses in Ottawa, actually. So they had a grocery store, a tavern. My grandma and all of her sisters had taverns. All the girls had taverns. There was like 7 of them, I think.
The trending thing to have.
Yeah. They all had a tavern. They made fried chicken ravioli. So my dad grew up working in the bar, cleaning out spittoons or whatever, which is gross. And then he ended up, my grandma had a grocery store, and then later on at a fried chicken delivery service. So she would make the chicken and somebody would deliver it. And that somebody was my dad. He did that right after he got out of law school. He delivered for my grandma and delivered fried chicken for her. It was his first job. And then he dug ditches for a quick minute, which
Fun.
I can't imagine. He was like 5'5", so I can't imagine how much strength was behind that muscle. 5'5" and 145. He probably was not a great ditch digger. I imagine that lasted all of 6 months. But that's actually where he met his first client. His first workers' comp client was a friend of his that dug ditches with him. Mm-hmm. And they ended up how everything started. So he worked in the DA's office and then became his own attorney. He worked for the state's attorney and then came over here and opened his own firm. We didn't start in this building. We started in downtown. The first office was upstairs of one of the main street downtown buildings. I don't even know which one that was. And then the second office was the one by the park, Lafayette Street. And then he built this one in 1985. He met my mom in 1978. They dated for 5 years. They were married for 5 years, and then I was born. I was born in 89 here in Ottawa. She had me on a Friday. She was back to work by Monday.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. With me here. So literally since 2 days after I was born, I have been in this office.
Grown up here. Like literally.
In
this room.
Downstairs, right below this office was where my first crib was. So
wow.
I literally grew up here. But so I went to Ottawa High School, graduated from there, went to Illinois Wesleyan University.
In Bloomington.
Yep. Loved it down there. Was probably a very pivotal turning point in my life as to who I am as a human. I was double major, philosophy and poli-sci, and then I had a minor in business, and that was like 1 credit short of a Spanish double minor. I was really mad. I wanted both doubles. I couldn't get it, and I wasn't going to stay. So I went through college, then law schools at New England Law in Boston. So I left Illinois for the first time I went to college at 17, so I was fairly young. So I was done by 21, so I went to law school in 21, 22, and was in law school until 20. I graduated law school in 24. I was 24 when I graduated law school, turned 25 when I got back. There, Boston was great. Probably that is really who formed me into what I am, is the teachers I had out there, and truly being 100% on my own and not in a place where people know my father or anybody else.
Right.
It forced me to become who I am, as for me and not for
as your own name.
As my own name.
Right.
So I worked with the Boston Red Sox. I was out there
cool.
with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention to coordinate for, veterans advocacy rights and suicide prevention rights. And I also got to work for the state's attorney's office out there to do some of the work comp. On the flip side, I actually worked for the state of Massachusetts doing work comp on the defense side, which is my nightmare because I grew up here. So, but I thought it was important to take it because it would teach me how to do my job better.
Right.
And it did. So I loved it out there. I had a great time, came home, and when I got back, I took the bar exam in November. They threw me rice cakes down the hallway because I was so gnarly when I was studying for them. bar exam, and I did not eat enough, so they threw me rice cakes down the hall.
Right.
To feed me, because I wasn't
Don't pass out,
yeah. So, I took the bar exam in, it would have been August. I was admitted in, July was when I took the bar exam. That was the year the bar exam shut down. We were on our computers. You could take it via in writing or on a computer, and the computer shut down in the middle of the exam.
Oh, no.
Like, turned off.
Oh, panic attack.
Oh, yeah, turned off, lost everything you had. And all of us were like, go home, I don't know. They shut down the test. So we all went home and we're like,
what do we do now?
What do we do? Do I have to retake that whole version? I can't do this again.
You can't do this to me.
I had it saved and it went...
There ended up being a lawsuit from it, which is hysterical because
the bar exam.
The bar exam.
Yeah, what about you?
Oh my god.
I mean, it was like 14 hours. It was 2 in the morning. I remember I should have been asleep. It was like 2 a.m. and Dad called me and was like, you have to go to bed. You still have a second day. You got to go to bed.
Right.
I know you're waiting and nervous. And I was like, well, what's the matter if you lost my first day?
Right.
He was like, well, you don't know that they
over.
lost the first day. Go to bed. And he was right. So I went to bed and I woke up the next day and ended up passing my first swing. So I came home, was admitted in November, and here we are.
That's awesome. What a story.
Yeah, it's a little journey.
So, kind of touching base on what you said about how you do a lot of advocating for suicide and everything like that. You do a local thing with the Out of the Darkness Suicide Prevention Walk. So let's touch base on how you kind of give back to the community with that.
So I started with them in 2012.
Okay.
I lost a friend in 2012 when I was in college. While I was in law school, I was in college. And, a lot of the grief process when you're dealing with a loss like that is trying to figure out like were there signs that I didn't know about.
Yes.
Like you start going through all the things that you think you should have seen.
Right.
And obviously we aren't taught those things, not at a high school level, not at a grade school level. Mm-hmm. They don't talk about what suicide really looks like or what depression really looks like.
Mental health issues.
Right. Mm-hmm. They tell you depression is sadness, but it's not. It's all kinds of things.
There's so much more.
There's gray area. Yes.
Manic, it's happiness, it's deep depressions, it's deep lows and high highs, it's sleep, it's all kinds of things. I didn't know any of that. And after we lost him, I started looking into some of that. We all walked as a group with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in Bloomington. They're Out of the Darkness Walk, and I was like, I want to do this. I want to get involved with this. I want to make it so that people start to know what it really looks like, so that this doesn't happen. So that I can stop somebody else from feeling what
as long as you can help one person, you've succeeded.
That's all that matters. Right.
Exactly.
So I got involved in 2012. I started on their advocacy team, actually. So I went to D.C. a couple of years in a row and advocated on a national level. I stopped doing that when I took over the firm because there's just no way I can take
not enough time.
4 days. Yeah, that doesn't exist here. But I do the state advocacy now because it's closer to home. It's only right at Springfield. I can go talk to everybody, and I know I'm making change at even a local level that sometimes we wouldn't see. But I started at the DC level. I actually advocated for Boston first. Boston had its own chapter. Illinois is like the only weird state in AFSP. Illinois has its one chapter for the whole state. So the Illinois chapter is all one chapter. The whole state is one chapter. We have one area director. We have one person who coordinates all of our walks. Her name is Angela Cummings. She is the greatest human on earth. She does everything, responds to every email. I have no idea how she does it all. But she started kind of getting me into the other side of, planning walks, seeing walks, how does it work? Mm-hmm. And I was encouraged when I went to the first DC advocacy program, their president came out. The president of the organization, Bob Gebbia, who is still the president of AFSP, he's the CEO. He came out and started talking about his losses and why he was involved. And I don't know many other, first of all, I don't know any other charitable organization like AFSP.
Right.
Their spending on the dollar is 83 cents goes back on every dollar. Goes back into research, advocacy, and prevention, which is wild. That's a crazy amount. Normally you're looking at 35 cents, 38 cents, something like that. I think the highest other one I've seen is 52, and that's, I think, for breast cancer. So I think that was the first thing about the organization that struck me then. I knew I wanted to be involved and stay involved with them specifically because there are lots of mental health organizations. Right. But really, it was when they all got up, every single CEO, CFO, every single person on the board got up to talk, and they had all not only had a mental health background, but they all had lost someone and were able to talk about that personally. And not only were we the only ones going to advocate, they were right next to us. So like we went to a senator's meeting and Bob Gebbia was with us and was talking about his loss, like in the same way that all the rest of us were. And that set that organization from the beginning apart from me, because you don't see many other CEOs of major charitable organizations
putting that
coming
first forward,
going first, leading by example,
right?
Which is what they do. So great. Then I got involved with the walk side when I moved home. There was a walk in LaSalle County. It was in Peru. It was great, but Streeter people were not driving to Peru. It was too far of a drive.
Right.
And I was already in Ottawa and had this building downtown where we had the means to store things and keep things for the walk. So I put my name in to run the walk. So I took over the walk in 15, I think was the first year. Maybe 16. It might have been 16. 15, I think, was my first year. Yeah, 15 was my first walk home, I think, and 16 was the first year I took over. So I ended up taking over the walk in 16. We raised $10,000 the first year I did it. Last year we raised like 60.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
59. So I'm pushing for 75 this year. I don't know if we'll get there, but
nothing wrong with
every
price.
single time that we push for a new goal with them, or we're able to raise the kind of funds we're raising in this community now, not only does it bring awareness because we get to do bigger and better things for the walk, more activities, they give us more things to provide, trainings, whatever, but they provide us with actual trainings in the community for months and months and months and months ahead of this walk. So one of the main platforms of AFSP in the next 2 years is to do grassroots advocacy. So they're going to, instead of going to legislators and saying, hey, you should be teaching this, we'll continue to do that, but we're also going to start implementing programs and training people like me in communities who run these local walks to give the training to teachers who want to hear this more than sad presentation about what it might be like to be a depressed teenager and how you can see those signs and pick up on those things.
Right, and to notice the little things.
Right, and how to talk to them about it, how to talk to the parents, and how to talk to the school about it.
It's a touchy subject, too.
Right, right, and a lot of schools won't let you in to talk about it.
Right.
Because of the liability issues, and as a lawyer, I can see it, but I think at this point the liability of losing a kid is much
a life
greater
for the liability.
Exactly.
Right. Is much greater
Which
than
one's
the
more
liability.
important, for sure.
So they have to find a way to have those conversations, which is why we're working on the advocacy end to try to change kind of the way that the schools districts are handling suicide prevention and mental health, discussion of mental health in general.
For sure.
Some of those things came out this year. There's some new laws that came out to talk about, how we can talk about feelings in schools and openness, but there's a lot of work to be done. So they're providing these grassroots advocacy programs and trainings that we can do. So I've been trained in 4 of their 6 trainings so far. There's only 2 I don't have, I think. And I'm able now to go to a school or go to a business, like if Studstill wanted to do a training for suicide prevention. I can come give a workplace training about what it looks like to have suicide or depression type symptoms or other kinds of manifestations in your workplace and how to handle it.
Sure.
How to talk to that person, how to ask hard questions, how to move forward.
How does a company get that information from you? Like, what do they have to do to set that up?
Nothing. Just call.
Okay.
We'll schedule a date and I come right over. That's it.
Just touch
It's
base.
very straightforward. And I've tried to make that as clear to the community as possible, but unfortunately, as much as I grew up here and I know a lot of people, that still gets
pushed under the rug
It's
sometimes.
such a taboo subject still.
right. So
Even
it's hard to get people to do it.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to get the teacher union to do it at the high school and the grade school levels. I'm hopeful that maybe next year we'll be able to do that. But AFSP is actually going to bring down 2 registered counselors to do trainings this year. That was part of their package that I just talked to them about. We've arranged. We'll start scheduling as of June. There will be at least 2 trainings a month until we get to our October walk.
Okay.
And then there will be I think there's going to be a motorcycle run again this year. We did one last year. I think we're going to do the same thing again this year. What day? I don't know. But that's in the works.
So you're saying
and a 5K too.
The next Out of the Darkness is going to be in October?
October 15th of 2022.
Awesome.
It'll be right downtown in the park. We used to do it at the Jordan Block. We switched to the other park because actually it's much bigger and ended up being much nicer last year for all of us to spread out and do
easier.
things. Yeah, it was easier. So, I love it. I've heard a lot of really sad stories, but I've heard a lot of really heartwarming. I've had a lot of really heartwarming conversations too.
Yeah.
And that's
of people
why
that you've helped.
Right. And that's why I keep doing it. It doesn't matter how stand in place it can sometimes feel because it is so taboo. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it feels like every time we take a step forward, we get pushed
like 3
back.
steps back, yeah.
Right.
But, you know, at this point, I know that we're helping people, so...
Right. And at the end of the day, I mean, you're never going to get rid of suicide. It's always going to be a thing.
Right. It's about spreading as much information as possible to help as many people as possible.
For sure.
It's an ongoing battle. It's not like a... You know, suicidal ideation lasts between 3 and 5 minutes. But, so if you can get to that person and talk them through it for 3 to 5 minutes when they're actually in that state,
in that moment,
you can help prevent it.
Right.
But it's about knowing when that moment occurs, right?
Exactly.
And that moment doesn't just go away after you stopped it the first time.
Oh, no, it's a struggle for them. They have to work through it.
Right.
For sure.
It's something they'll struggle with their entire life after that.
Right. It's about trying to find them help, and not the help you think they need, but the help that they
actually need, for sure.
Whatever that means for them. You know, it may not mean prescription medication for everybody. It may not mean even counseling for everybody. Some people need to be out in nature walking. Some people need to be...
Just seeing those triggers and how can they prevent them.
Right. And finding the thing that brings them joy.
Right.
It helps them find
the light
purpose.
in dark situations, for sure.
Helps them find their purpose. So, like everything else I do, that's why I do FSP. That's why I became a lawyer, is to help people get justice and find their purpose. Mm-hmm. You know, move on to the next step in their life. It's the same reason I do that with FSP. It's important to me to help people find their purpose or find their next step. Do the next right thing was my dad. My best friend Stephanie has always said that to me. I mean, since we were little, she always just would say, "Do the next right thing." You just have to do the next right thing, and that's our go-to phrase now.
It's a good phrase to have.
Yeah, it's our go-to
phrase.
Says "Do the next right thing." So that's
you should put that on T-shirts.
Yeah, that's it. I told her that's what I want to do.
That should be your slogan. Yeah.
Do the next right thing. No, our slogan at the walk has always been, "You're never alone."
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, just because I think that's the biggest message over the last 10 years that I've heard.
It's a simple reminder, but sometimes it's needed for sure.
Is I felt alone. I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody. I felt like a burden.
Right.
It's just not the case.
Right. It's all in your. I mean, it's in your head,
but it's not.
But you can't say that to them. Right.
It's in your head, but it's not. It's really how you feel. It's not, in your head. It's not dismissive of that.
Right.
It's, if that's how you feel, then we have to find a way to show you that you aren't a burden.
For sure.
That's where we're at.
For sure.
Right. So I love doing that. I've been pretty involved with that for, like I said, 10 years. Involved in all the bar associations. I actually was recently this year appointed to the I was appointed to the Work Council for the Illinois State Bar Association, which is really cool. They get to help, change how legislators look at workers' comp, which is neat, and kind of help shape how our industry works. So hopefully that means I can do better for my clients, not just by serving them, but by helping others fix the system that is somewhat broken. And I also did the tornado recovery when the tornado came through in 2017. I did the tornado recovery.
So does your family get involved with all these organizations that you have as well?
Yeah, so my mom actually has helped with AFSP every single walk here. Mm-hmm. She has a hard time staying for the walk. We've got depression in our family too, so sometimes it's hard for her to be there.
Emotional.
Right. But she helps me set up every year. She helps me tear down every year. She brings me money bags when I inevitably forget to get change. That's every year. I don't know how I forget it every year. It's been like 7 years. But my godmom helps every year. This whole office. So this office is more than an office. It's more than a staff. It's my family.
Right. Well, you spend 80 hours a week with them. They have to be.
Yeah, and if they don't hate me,
If someone wants to get involved with that with you, what do they need to do?
They can shoot me an email. My contact information is all on the walk page. Awesome. Down to my phone number, everything is on there.
Okay. Awesome.
My phone number, my email, you can direct email me on the walk page, everything. And if I prefer the email because it's a lot easier for me to keep track of everybody. Right. So if you email me through the walk page, I'll say, this is how we start. There's committees for volunteering. There's committees for volunteering for the actual walk. There's committees for tear down and setup. Because some people have a hard time being there but want to help.
Right, but still want to be involved.
Right. And there's committees for getting sponsors, which is really what we're looking for now. We're trying to start that committee. So that's the first thing we're putting out in the community. We're looking for sponsors for this year's event. There's all different levels of sponsorships. I actually just got them yesterday. They're over there.
Cool. Yeah. Man, what a story.
Yeah.
Right.
You out of breath?
No, I'm trying to look
all right, keep going.
I can't breathe. can't breathe out of my nose, but I can talk. But yeah, so that's everything.
That was your Community Coffee Convo with Dani and Caryn on the Morning Jolt. Brought to you by the law offices of Peter F. Ferracuti on Walls 102.